Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can hear, the audio quality of my videos sounds better. I just bought a new microphone and I really love making videos about video games and especially the genre of role-playing games. That is why I've decided to create a new video about Konami. Konami is one of the famous video gaming company way back then, with their signature titles like Contra, Metal Gear, Castlevania, Silent Hill, which is my childhood nightmare, and my favorite of them all, the Suikoden series. They also made several role-playing games that a lot of you might actually never heard of. This is gonna be another list showcasing some of my favorite JRPGs developed or published by Konami. So relax, grab your popcorns, and enjoy this video. Number 20 is Beyond the Labyrinth. This game is a dungeon crawler game and it has been described as having graphical similarities to the game Ico. The game's combat system blends real-time and action-based gameplay elements together. The game revolves around a group of players who have begun playing an online multiplayer game only to find themselves thrust into a world completely different from theirs. They encounter a girl who has become trapped in this world's labyrinth and the two parties must work together to find a way out. It is an impressive title from the 3DS early library, although they never released it in English version. Number 19 is Esper Dream. This is one of those games you'll definitely fall in love the minute you play it. The soundtrack and the art style is so true to the retro RPGs from Family Computer. During this time, RPGs had a particular look and feel, primarily utilizing sword and magic motifs. Esper Dream takes place instead in a fairy tale world featuring a young boy with ESP talents who wields a gun. This is a game that will bring you back to old school Family Computer video game classics. Number 18 is Hybrid Heaven. The main selling point of Hybrid Heaven is the way in which it combines action fighting and RPG elements all into one game. One thing I love about this game is that you can create and save your own punch-kick combos, which can be fun to experiment with. Konami certainly succeeded in creating something unique with its battle system. It's so refreshing to play this game with such a dark and sci-fi storyline. Number 17 is Ephemeral Fantasia. This is one of those games that starts slow but gets better as you play it. The pacing is slow but the story is gripping and even a little disturbing from the very beginning. Some really hated it, but I actually did like this game, but I have to say it has a room for improvement. I'm not really bothered by the graphics since I'm a person who is more of an inside rather than the outside, if you get what I mean. Overall, with anime style, characters, and a firm story and gameplay, this game should be enjoyable for anyone who can get past the graphical weaknesses. Number 16 is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards. I grew up watching the anime and collecting cards as a kid. I still remember hours and hours I've spent playing this game in my Game Boy Advance. Unlike the previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, this game has a story and RPG elements in it. It is based on the Battle City arc of the anime, and the player assumes the role as a friend of Yugi Muto as they compete in the Battle City tournament. The RPG side of the game is limited to running around the town and finding opponents to duel. But the duelist leveling system does add a new wrinkle to the gameplay. Number 15 is Frontier Gate, another Japan exclusive title that didn't make it to the West. This game looks so great and it shares some similarities with Monster Hunter. It's such a good title in the PSP, it just sucks I don't know how to read kanji or hiragana. The battle system is the traditional turn-based with command menu system. The artwork is so beautiful and as a PSP game, it's definitely something you should try. They've released an English patch version, but most of the dialogues and texts are still in Japanese. Number 14 is Metal Gear Acid. I'm not really a big fan of Metal Gear, but I did enjoy this game. An interesting strategy game that requires learning what cards work best with different character decks and customizing your gear. The game is very challenging and it's definitely not like the other Metal Gears. This is a niche title that is perfectly suited for the handheld console, but which may be too slowly paced and strategic for most. Add to that the initial learning curve of the card system. But if you're a fan of both, you should definitely try this game. Number 13 is Lunar Nights, the first title from Kojima Productions for the dual-screen handheld. It's a supremely polished action RPG in which you slay the bloodsuckers and their monstrous minions with two very different protagonists. With a lengthy, engaging story, great production values, and loads of interesting gameplay touches, this is an action-adventure game that's worth the challenge. It's a fairly simple game barred the neat little tricks and ideas here and there, but that doesn't stop it from being an enjoyable game. Number 12 is Suikoden 4. Although the game fell flat due to its slow-paced combat and a lack of heart on its story, I still have to give credit on this game. It's actually not that bad, and not really that good, but it is playable. I actually finished the game because I need the save data file for Suikoden Tactics for you to recruit the main hero Lasto and his childhood friend Snow. I love the characters and the islands in this game. The combat is actually okay, but you can only use 4 stars of destiny in your party, which is quite a letdown. Nevertheless, Suikoden 4 gives a great RPG experience if you haven't played Suikoden 2 and Suikoden 5. Number 11 is Suikoden Tierkreis. It's created as a spin-off of the main series of Suikoden. Suikoden Tierkreis was made to explore one of the myriad of worlds that exist in the Suikoden metaverse. It is a traditional JRPG where the player must navigate through 3-dimensional environments and complete story-based objectives to advance in the story. A compelling narrative, wonderful soundtrack, and likable characters all overcome the many flaws that the game bears and makes it an incredible, memorable entry in the Suikoden saga. Number 10 is Vandal Hearts. It's a very bloody strategy RPG and a hidden gem since it was overshadowed with Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Cross at that time. It has a unique strategy combat system with a dark brooding story and a huge number of characters as you progress in the game. One thing I don't like is the story progression, as in there was no random battles. The game moved on rails with the story. Nevertheless, the engaging characters and serious nature of story made Vandal Hearts one of the best strategy RPGs of all time. Number 9 is Vandal Hearts 2. It has the better storyline, setting, and characters, and the multitude of equipment, skills, and customization are amazing. Also, you can go back to the areas that you have already been to, which is a great improvement from the first game. The story was top-notch, and I would consider the overall themes of it very mature. The system was very interesting for sure, but I still found the gameplay for the first one more enjoyable in some ways. Vandal Hearts 2 offered, however, that every bit of equipment characters wore would be shown, and I loved that. The level designs were also smoother, and the game itself is more flexible and much bigger and longer than the first game in the series. Number 8 is Boktal, The Sun in Your Hands. At its core, this is a first-rate action-adventure game that features a good story, challenging puzzles, memorable battles, and some of the finest graphics and sound to date on the Game Boy Advance. Boktal reinvigorates almost every aspect of the tired dungeon and items formula. It's gimmicky and yet outstandingly innovative. A unique title that not only wins over people with concept alone, but furthers the idea with their first taste of gameplay. It's a little weird, but the fun doesn't stop. Number 7 is Azure Dreams. Some might find dungeon crawler RPGs tedious, but I really enjoy these games. The art style and the combat system is really fun to play. I'm a huge fan of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and I feel like there are some similarities with Azure Dreams without the dating sim. If you're into roguelike games, surely this is something you should add to your library. Although it's quite dated, the game still has a lot to offer. Number 6 is Suikoden 1 or just simply Suikoden. This game started a series that I'll definitely never forget. While Suikoden 1 may not be the strongest installment of the series, it is a classic. It sets the foundation for amazing mechanics and character building that continued on through the series. Suikoden uses tried and true RPG elements while introducing mechanics that later became a staple of their titles. Along with the main story, there are several characters that trigger side quests, games, and expansions to the story itself. Number 5 is Suikoden Tactics. This might actually surprise you, but one of my criteria when choosing RPGs in my top list is the replay value. Although some might say the gameplay is quite short, but the new Game Plus makes up for it with additional character to join in your party, and transferring your weapons and equipments in the next game. It has a great turn-based tactical combat system with elemental terrain that you can use to your advantage and adding a new dimension to it through the use of affinities. This game has so much potential to be great and has a special place in my heart. To be honest, it is one of my favorite tactical strategy RPGs out there. It's sad that we never had a sequel. Number 4 is Suikoden 3. It's really a great classic from PlayStation 2. I'm a little biased that I've always had a soft spot for the Suikoden series dominating this list. The Trinity Sight system contains 3 chronological chapters per character. Players have the ability to switch characters and point of view after the end of each chapter. The artwork is so beautiful, the story is excellent, and is filled with minigames and a chance to build your own castle by recruiting the 108 Stars of Destiny. The only thing that holds me back from putting it higher is the slow combat system, but nevertheless, the game is so majestic. I would recommend this game to anyone who loves intertwining story. Number 3 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's the first Castlevania to introduce a non-linear gameplay, but an RPG-similar gameplay style with a lot of RPG elements and focusing on exploration and character leveling. A classic of its time and my favorite game in the franchise, and probably the poster child for the Metroidvania genre. It has RPG mechanics and combination of exploration, puzzle solving, and character improvements. This is without the most lovingly crafted and polished of all Castlevania games, and it is the best in my own opinion. Number 2 is Suikoden 2. This game is just wow. To be quite frankly, this is my number 1 JRPG for the PlayStation 1. An immersive storyline, quick loading times, solid soundtrack, ahead of its time graphics, 108 Stars of Destiny with interesting characters, and a customizable turn-based combat system that makes this an enjoyable play. A true sequel in nearly every aspect. Suikoden 2 manages to achieve the rare feat of actually picking up where the former game left off, taking gamers for a familiar ride that proves to be deeper and much more detailed than the original. Number 1 is Suikoden 5. I'm sure some of you might disagree with me with this one being my top JRPG from Konami, but it's my own opinion. There's so much to love in this game, from the masterpiece story surrounding the Kingdom of Falena, which is the best story ever in all Suikoden series, to its variety of characters to recruit and add to your party. The combat system is straightforward, minigames, duels, and the army battles which are quite challenging and very fun. Suikoden 5 marks a complete return to the roots that made Suikoden such a lovable series that fans can't just forget how amazing it is. And actually, this game is by far my most favorite JRPG in PlayStation 2.